Thank you, Deirdre. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to talk to you today about engaging the public with heritage, but to do so from the perspective of a heritage officer. And in keeping with the theme of the conference, I'm going to focus specifically on some recent initiatives that we've been undertaking in County Meath to engage public with heritage. And I suppose in terms of their interpretation of the heritage, presenting of the heritage, and I suppose more importantly how I feel this is best achieved by working together and collaboratively in a partnership approach. The programme that Deirdre just mentioned is the Heritage Officer Programme, and it's a key infrastructure and partnerships of the heritage that the Heritage Council has established nationally. There are over 28 heritage officers now in city and county councils all over the country. And I suppose it was realised at the time that local authorities were key influences at heritage at local level, and that a heritage officer in this role can provide a professional, coordinated and strategic service at local level. We facilitate County Heritage Forum, which is a bringing together of all the different stakeholders at county level to discuss heritage, to devise the County Heritage Plan, and we also coordinate the implementation of 5-year strategic plans. And at this stage, many of the counties are on their second plan, and even some of them have moved into their third plan, I'm happy to say. The programme has been in operation since 1999. We also provide advice on best practice in heritage conservation and management, and this is across the board. This is both to the local authority and also to community groups and organisations across the county that we work in. But I suppose a key role that all of the officers have is in education and training. And again, this is delivered through a wide range of activities and projects that we get involved in. And central to all of this is creating partnerships that very much engage and work with communities in a collaborative and participative manner. And also then, I suppose, in our role within the local authority, we advocate for heritage. We look to influence the local government policy through our county emergence of our county development plans, and also then by working on specific work programmes and projects that the local authorities themselves are advancing. And that gives us an opportunity to sit down with planners, with engineers, and really begin to kind of tease out the heritage issues at an early stage as possible in the process. But each year there's hundreds of projects across the country completed by heritage officers, and all of this is done with the support both financially and technically from the Heritage Council. Include survey work, include capital works on heritage projects, things like town walls. Again, a range of seminars, Heritage Week activities, and again, all of that is really fostering a sense of ownership and fostering pride in the wonderful heritage that we have in Ireland and throughout all of our own individual counties. And I suppose what I want to talk to you about today specifically is Terra. And I suppose I came to work at Terra through Meath County Council's involvement in a wider project with the Heritage Council and the Department of the Environment, looking at landscape management, looking at the establishment of frameworks in relation to this. But more than that, in terms of what I want to talk to you about today, is a specific element of that project where we began to focus and engage with the local community at Terra and people who use and interact with the site. Terra has been, for more than 5,000 years, a very special place in the hearts and minds of Irish people. Its name is synonymous with Irish kingship, pagan deities and characters from the world of Irish legend. The archaeological, historical and literary evidence reveal Terra to be the mythical royal capital of Ireland. And it's recently, as the Minister said this morning, been included in Ireland's 2010 tentative World Heritage List as part of the Royal Sites of Ireland, which has been submitted to UNESCO. And when you look at a landscape like Terra, you can see how successive generations have created the history book that we see today. The survival of monuments, holy wells, settlements in the area, burial grounds, the field patterns themselves, the hedgerows, the farmed landscapes, the place names that are very strong in Terra's history and very central to its identity. They all combine really to tell the story of a very special place that's very central to our own sense of place, both as a community within County Meath, but also as a powerful symbol for Irish national identity. And a key objective, I suppose, in coming to work on this project and very much from the start, being driven and guided by the Heritage Council, was to embrace this approach by adopting the approach of the European Landscape Convention. So to look at landscape in its totality, to look at landscape as an area as perceived by people. And by doing this, we engaged in a very extensive consultation with local communities, with stakeholders, and with a range of organisations, individuals and community groups, and really began to listen to a lot of different viewpoints. And I think that's one of the things that will probably, anyone who's involved in a lot of consultation or has done a lot of it, is that there is a very, very often many viewpoints coexisting on the same piece of land. And I suppose part of that process is to try and facilitate, I suppose, the different viewpoints and communicate and listen to people as well in doing that and in undertaking that exercise. But also as part of this and as part of another element of the project, we were very keen to develop the educational and the potential that Terra has in relation to engaging the public in educational activities as part of that. So when we look at Terra and we look at landscape and we begin to see, I suppose, the interconnection between people and places, we begin to see, I suppose, how the history is reflected in that place, how people's experience is, and people's experience with that landscape forms their opinion of how they interact with that space. You begin to see then, I suppose, the many narratives that Terra has and a place like Terra has. And I suppose some very fundamental questions begin to emerge in terms of where is Terra? What is the extent of Terra? Why is it special? And when you dig down a little bit further, you'll see that it has many narratives. It has very, very strong archaeological, obviously, and historical narratives, pioneering work by the Discovery Programme, led by Conor Newman, who have over 20 years research at Terra and have really employed a very strong interdisciplinary approach to revealing, I suppose, through painstaking survey, the treasures, I suppose, and a much clearer understanding that the landscape of Terra has, and I suppose has been communicating the complexity of that landscape as well. And they continue to do so. And they've always been very engaged with the people in the community, and whenever they do field work, last summer or the summer before, the Discovery Programme were down in Terra doing geophysics, but after their day's work in the evening, held talks for the local people, presented the results that they had found that day. And again, these were very well received and very well attended, and also very ably facilitated by the OPW, who operate the visitor centre at Terra. It's always been a very powerful symbol of political sovereignty, of Irish sovereignty, from the insurgents in 1798 to Daniel O'Connell's monster meeting at Terra, which was up to 1 million people. It has obviously a religious narrative in terms of St. Patrick and his conversion to Christianity, and it also has a more ritual, spiritual place where, for Druids who continue to use Terra and to use the tradition of that hill as a place of ceremony and ritual, particularly around summer solstice. But it also has another narrative as well, in that it's very, very much an open space. It's 100 acres of state-owned land. The views that you see here from Terra on a clear day, you can see a huge landmass of Ireland, up to 12 counties. And the footprint of the state in terms of what they owned, it makes it a very, very different experience and a very, very different visitor experience for people who use the site and go to the site. And I suppose it's very, very much embedded in the local community as a place where people go. And that's, I think, a very important element of Terra, and something I think that is to be celebrated, because it is true that, I suppose, that people have a strong connection with this place. And at the focal point of all of this is Maguire's, which has been on the hill for generations, and again providing sustenance and hot chocolate to all the field workers and tourists that go there. But again, it's very much part of the community, in the community. And any day of the week, from November to July, when you go and visit Terra, you will find the place abuzz with people. And I suppose most of those, at least half, if not more, at certain times of the year, will be from the local community. So again, it's very much part of daily life in that area. This is just a picture of an event that happens up there annually, the Dawn Run at Terra. I wasn't on it now, I just got the picture. But, And I suppose the other narrative of the site is that it's an economic landscape. It's embedded in rural County Meath, which has very obviously strong agricultural traditions. It's surrounded by farms and farming, and it's set in that rural context as well. And I suppose true to all of this, I suppose what I'm trying to kind of come across here a little bit is that it has different meanings for different people. And one of the things that I was quite interested in was to know how the children of the area viewed Terra. How did they, excuse me, what kind of sense did they get of the place? And we began a project where with the Arts Office in the council, I began to talk to them, and we developed a project with the local school in Screen and a stained glass artist in Navan. So it was the local council, the local school and a local business coming together in a very, very innovative way in terms of working together through this project. And really the remit was very simple. We asked the artist, the stained glass artist, to go into the school and to work with the children through a series of workshops and to just really ask them a very simple question, is what does Terra mean to you? And to capture, and the children were asked just to capture that in an image, which was then worked on with the artist and fashioned into a piece of stained glass, which I'll show you shortly. And the responses were quite varied. And one of the things that the children did was that they also visited the studio. So they worked through the whole process of how their concept, going through design, and actually ended up as a product then afterwards. And this is just a picture of the finished product. And again, just some of the blow-ups of the images that were there. And for those of you who are familiar with Terra, you'll if you look closely at the window, you'll see that it's actually the images and the pictures have been arranged by the artist to resemble a map or an aerial photograph of Terra. So he worked very closely with the children in developing this concept. And it's in analysing the window, I suppose, you definitely get to see the depth of meaning that the children draw from Terra, and I suppose very much how its sense of place is embedded in their response to the site. And it was unveiled in the school by with an event that we had at the school, and the gentleman unveiling it is a local GAA star called Trevor Giles, and he was you know, very much a star in terms of the kids' eyes as well for coming and looking at their project. So he was certainly it's certainly captured their imagination, and it's also going to be permanently installed in the school. And they're redesigning the front of the school to give it a more prominent position in the school. So they have certainly, it's been a very positive contribution, and it will become a very cherished part of their community and their future. And moving quickly along to Trim, again, I want to talk to you a little bit about work that we're going on here. Over the past 15 years, there's been a number of archaeological excavation, both development-led and research-led, in Trim. And in 2008, the council was approached by CRDS, which was a consultancy archaeological company who had done a lot of these excavations, with the idea that they were interested in having a seminar to communicate some of the results and information and knowledge that they were amassing through these excavations. And I was very interested in working with them on it, but I suppose the brief that we gave them was that I wanted the site directors to come back and give a presentation in Trim, but to do so not, you know, to use a language that would be accessible to non-archaeologists. So really to kind of focus on, I suppose, the stories, if you like, of the sites, what was happening to people in that area, how they lived, how daily life was, what the material culture was then showing in terms of the evidence that was upturning. And we had a huge event that year. We had over 200 people, local people attended, and it was very, very well received, and there was a huge interest and appetite, and it brought together as well some of the recent people who had moved to Trim, because again Meath has increased a lot in population over the last few years. And the following year then we managed to get some more funding from the Heritage Council and ourselves, and we published a book on uncovering medieval Trim. And again, it's the story of the archaeology of the town, and again that was very well received. And following on from that, the same company then began to diversify and look a little bit more at how there are other elements of their business and look at cultural tourism and community archaeology in particular. And they've established the Irish Archaeological Field School. And this is a university accredited field school based in County Meath, where students can come who have an interest in archaeology or history, and we're beginning to kind of diversify the scope of what will be on offer in the school, and learn the skills and trade of an archaeologist on a research excavation. But also in doing so, they live locally in the community. So they come for stints of usually up to a month, sometimes longer. They've been from, so far, it's been established a couple of years. We've had visitors from Australia, Canada, the US, and further afield as well. And this whole concept then in terms of heritage as an economic driver, because one of the things in Meath that we've always had is trying to kind of retain tourists here in the county. So again, we've been developing this project over the last couple of years. The excavations are supervised by, obviously, a very experienced archaeologist. And then the latest project that we're working on is a site called the Black Friary. This is a 4-acre site. It's been buried in kind of the middle of the town. You can see it's kind of backs onto housing estate. It's the site of a 13th century Dominican friary. And we're looking at bringing this back into community use and using archaeology as its core. And this project, I suppose, has been going on for about a year. And again, this will be excavated as part of the field school, but it's not just part of the field school, it's actually going to bring in local communities and local people as well to get involved in it. And we've set up a committee locally with the Tidy Towns, with local businesses, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the libraries. And again, this is running now at the moment. They're about to begin the field season next week and have students come on site and again interact with local community as well. And really, I suppose what ultimately what we're hoping is here is that we will have a park created for the people of Trim, with archaeology very much at its core, but also with spaces in the 4-acre site for playgrounds, for allotments, for community gardens, and for a space for people to interact. And there's also running in tandem with this a Dig It Kids camp for younger children. And again, it's simulated archaeology. And again, that's a programme we're running that's been run by the Irish Archaeological Field School. And they're running that throughout the schools in Trim and further afield. The site has received funding from the Archaeological Institute of America as site preservation funding. And we've also been selected as, for honorary mention, in the educational travel community. And again, this is an international body who specialise in educational tourism. And they hold an annual conference every year and select projects from around the world that showcase responsible tourism. And again, looking at this, again, it's very much embedded in the community. It has community archaeology at its core. So I suppose just to finish up quickly, heritage officers, they provide an interface between the heritage profession and the public. They also provide a platform to help communicate heritage, and are close to and understand community and local structures. They survive very much on building partnerships and engage and educate and outreach. And I suppose it's important to say as well that as heritage professionals, we all need to be innovative, and we all need to look at new technologies and new techniques for engaging with our heritage. And I suppose to move along the concept that heritage is not just about the past, but very much about the present and the future as well. Engaging communities, though, it does take time and it does take resources. And in the projects I've briefly described here, and in similar ones being carried out by heritage officers all over the country, the support of the Heritage Council has been a constant. And there's a confidence in the Heritage Council, and a confidence in the Heritage Council to deliver at local level. And I suppose to have that network in place and to have that community infrastructure there, it's very, very important. And I can't overemphasise the response on the ground to community groups when they hear that their project is being funded by the Heritage Council, is being looked at by the Heritage Council, and the sense of pride that that engenders. Thank you.